Canine Detection Collaborative, a detection dog training trio with Stacy Barnett.
Hi.
Robin Greubel.
Hey there.
And Crystal Wing.
What's up?
With humor and a big dose of theory, our trio talks practical training advice and features interviews with top trainers and scientists. It's Canine Detection Collaborative.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Canine Detection Collaborative. I'm Robin Greubel, and I am here with my stupendous co-hosts, Stacy Barnett. Hello. And Crystal Wing.
Greetings, friends. I took yours.
That's okay. And the nice thing is we are located in the central United States and are currently not roasting at the time of this particular recording.
It is possible.
It is possible. At least today in Iowa is a really nice 77 degrees. Crystal's at home in St. Louis. What's it there?
Nice. I think it's a high of 80 today.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
I saw a weather map and there was a line. And basically in the US today, you are either smoky or hot. And that's it.
We're
The
smoky.
smoke just cleared out. So that was nice.
We're smoky. I'm like, do you want to take smoky or do you want to take hot? I'm like, smoky's fine.
Smoky's fine. Yeah.
I'm cool with it.
We're good.
Yeah.
But at least we're cool this week because when we had intentional handling and hide setting, we were averaging heat indices of boiling lobsters.
Boiling. Yeah.
So
they were boiling. It did get worse right after the camp though.
it did.
Yeah. After the camp, it got way worse. So I'm gonna do the whole glass was half full kind of deal and say that I'm going to spin this.
Okay.
The heat index was full 10 degrees lower than it was the following week. There's that. There you go.
Well, and I was trying to think ahead. I was supposed to do my certification there
low
on that. Oh, no. I was trying to do that certification on that Saturday and Sunday after the last camp. And
No.
I'm so thankful that I canceled it because knowing that I have another opportunity, but also that heat was it was too much. And you have to look at the forecast in advance and go, well, things change. But seeing how consistently scorching it was made the right choice. There was no reason for humans and dog to be out there.
No.
Like my cert's still good until like mid or late August, I think. And it's not like I'm getting deployed anytime soon. I'm not on a team. I'm getting ready to travel across the country. Like
You're going to be busy.
We got to be smart.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was also the reason why, we had all the teams working like really early anyway. And I think it worked out really, really well. We
did.
Searching from like 7:30 on, 7:30 on, and everybody coped really well with the heat. They really did.
They did. So this is going to be like our little intentional handling and hide setting download. It was super awesome to have Crystal join us this year for this particular class. And we added in, Crystal had her 7 C's.
There were 6 of them.
Oh, 6. See, there should be 7, I guess.
You're already trying to add numbers.
I know. So
More the better.
Yep. Did you want to go through the C's or not?
Sure. It's kind of been I'm thinking about making a class about them even because it's been such a lens for me to think about my training and it's been helpful. And then it's been it's been a week now, I guess, since we had students, I think. And I was kind of wondering, if it stuck with some of the students, and it's been really cool on social media to see different students commenting about their C's in their life. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. It's something that lasted. But we kind of looked at the lens of training. And you can choose any C's you want, but the 6th C, because I kind of made the joke about it's kind of 6C, like sexy. It's that's why I remember the 6, I guess.
Okay.
But you can look through the different lenses of why you're doing what you're doing. And it can be dog training, it can be anything. But I like taking a lens to kind of go, okay, can I kind of focus on this piece? And so think of things like confidence, curiosity, creativity, clarity, connection. So it's what are you trying to accomplish through this? So we talk about the D's of distraction, but then there's also kind of the C's of how you can think about your session and kind of bring that confidence or clarity or connection or whatever it is you're trying to bring to it in that moment. And it's been pretty powerful for me. So I think I'm going to build a class around it.
I think that sounds like a great idea. It was interesting for me because we started the week with the C's and with play and engagement, because that's how we always start things. And it was interesting for me to see how students' C's changed throughout the week. And that was interesting. And I think for me, I also look and see what just giving people those educational prompts sometimes really help provide them with clarity in their training. So, and yes, that's one of the.
And I asked them to start with curiosity so that they could be open with no judgment about their own training and others. And so that's, I liked starting it that way. I thought that was kind of fun too.
Yeah. Besides being desperately hot, I enjoyed the fact that we had such a wonderful group of nosework and cadaver dog handlers.
Oh, they were fabulous. We really had a good group.
Yeah.
We had a good group. Yeah. It was a group of supportive, respectful, just dedicated, open-minded, like everybody there. And just really, I don't know, did we end up getting like just lucky or what? But all I can say is that we had some really awesome people.
Yeah. And it was really fun because we had 2 students from Distraction Camp this year who we said, hey, we have an opening. And they literally left for a week and then came back for a week for Distraction Camp or for intentional handling and hide setting.
And what was interesting, they both kind of like wanted the spot at the same time. So we're like, okay,
right.
You can both come. Yeah.
And one talked to me and one talked to Stacy, and we were like, yeah, sure. And then we're like, oh,
yeah.
Whoops.
Okay. It worked out great.
It worked out awesome. Great. Yeah.
Yeah. It was, the dogs got a lot of searching time. They did we pushed them on a ton of different skills, like stretching them in different ways. And really, I think I loved how open-minded people were. Like, even if they came in and they were handling differently or they were doing something different, it was just kind of like they just kind of suspended belief and were like, okay, let me try this.
Right.
And it was just fun to see how things changed over the week. And I had a blast. I really did.
And I want to say Distraction Camp, I think we talked about this already. You guys got that episode last time. But we had several handlers who have been at a previous Distraction Camp come to intentional handling and hide setting, including the one this year. And then I think we had 3 or 4 who came to intentional handling last year come back to intentional handling this year. And the fun thing was being able to provide them with continued challenges.
Yeah. Yeah. So it wasn't the same.
It wasn't the same.
Exactly. And then actually, honestly, to see the difference in their handling.
Oh my.
From last year and the difference in the dogs. It was fun. It was fun. Yeah. I mean, most of them were really quite upper level.
It's always funny when you're like, I have no feedback. That was handled famously. And they're like, what do you mean? It can't be perfect. I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
It was nicely done. That's what it's supposed to feel like.
Yeah. And even with our really, even with kind of like the most advanced teams, I felt like we still found things that we wanted to work on. And that's always fun too, because we are always striving for perfection. We are always trying to push ourselves and sometimes, when you have a really high performing dog, it can be a little bit of a challenge to say, okay, what are the pieces that I still need to work on? And, and I really applaud handlers who are kind of in that situation. They're still pushing, they're still driving, and they're still trying to how do I make this even better? And we had some of that.
Right. And I enjoyed the fact that, well, Crystal did all of her play diagnostic stuff that she's so good at. And then we also incorporated some body language, reading a dog stuff that went into it. And so it was fun and interesting to see how students were having aha moments with all of that as well.
I was just looking at our list, and I think we had 5 new students out of 17. I think everybody else had returned from distraction camp or intentional handling.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Wow.
I was just
That is
trying to look back at
crazy.
the list and see. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I guess we didn't mess up on the first one then. So, the biggest indicator is, do people come back, right?
Yeah.
So
one of my favorite things too is we asked them to sign up. They're like, fill out their goal sheet in the beginning. And when I talked to people at the end, not a single person had said that they didn't meet their goals. So that was also a really nice feeling. And, you can have those little one-on-one talks there in the downtime and saying, hey, are we meeting your goals? What else do you need? And that was even like, I think on Thursday, when I talked to most people about it, they're like, oh, they were met day 1 or day 2. I'm like, wow, okay. So that was a nice feeling.
Yeah.
And I love the variety too. We had our search and rescue dogs and we had our nose work dogs, and they were all at such different levels. And we had some really, really high level competitors too. And so that always gets in my head a little bit. I don't know why. I just get nervous.
Yes. I'm with you, because I'm like, okay, what can we provide them with feedback or challenges that they haven't already seen? And I think one of the interesting things is that some of the environments we put them in were so incredibly challenging, just because it's a cow barn and we just sorted cows the week before. And so there's fresh cow poop places.
Which I didn't know that cow poop, what's the thing the cows go in? The cow press or cow chute, or what is that?
The cattle chute. Yeah.
Okay, so the cattle chute. I should have realized this,
the
but
cow press, it sounds like a panini.
I know.
So
They can poop on top of the cow chute. I didn't know that. So when I climbed up there to take video and I got down, I was like, oh, okay.
it was probably from, I would think, boots.
Either that or they're flinging their tails.
Yeah, I don't know how it got up there, but once I climbed up there and I was already sitting, it was like, well, here we are. This is what we're doing now.
The fun thing with you on the cattle chute, though, besides picking up some passengers, is the fact that you had a really cool view of where recording the dogs working, right? And you also stood on some big round bales, which Joe really nicely provided us with, to do the field search.
That, and she was up in the Quonset too. So we had like this overhead view of like all these searches. It was really cool.
Yeah. And besides the fact that we filled up our Google Drive, but
oops.
Yeah,
True.
That'll happen. I think, Crystal, you were the one who was reviewing those with students, or reviewing some of the body language stuff with students, right?
No, we didn't get a chance to do that. But what I was hoping, and it seemed like it worked out, was that as homework, the students did that. And so that worked out really well.
It did.
Because they were able to come back the last day and really talk about what they had seen and getting to see everybody's searches. And it was really great that we were able to reinforce that from the first day of saying, record your stuff, look at the body language, look at these different lenses. And they were able to do that. So it was cool seeing that growth with them. And also knowing that they're not going to have it by the last day, but it's this thing that can move forward. And that's something I think we always hope for, is that it's not just what they're gaining now, but how it's going to impact them in the future and how they can keep growing with those skills.
Right. I know all of us, I believe, actually encourage people to record their dogs and also record them in the picture, because that's what intentional handling is all about, is understanding how your body language affects and handling affects what the dogs were doing. And one of the students, we have during this class, because it's also a hide setting class, we also set out hides for extended periods of time. And one of the most interesting things that happened, and I always love it when it happens that you suggest something and it just happens to make you look brilliant. Because sometimes you're like, yeah, that didn't work. Okay, never mind.
Right.
Occasionally something happens and everybody's like, oh, how'd you know? And I'm like, I guessed. But it was one of the dogs was having a super hard time figuring out a hide because we set it in such a way that we thought it would be somewhat difficult. And one of the things we talked about quite a bit in this class is not going full frontal on a hide. And what we mean by full frontal is the fact that no, you do not square up and point your toes at where the hide is located, because that encourages your dog to search only in that particular area and not leave. And what ended up happening is the student had been listening to us. I think this was Wednesday when we did this. Or was it Thursday?
Yeah. No, it was Thursday.
It was Thursday.
We did the outside. We did the outside stuff.
Because we did the outside stuff. So she is not going full frontal on the hide. She's going full frontal away from the hide, but it happened to be into an odor pool.
Yeah.
And the dog is sitting there and searching and searching and searching.
Oh, was she full frontal in the odor pool? Because I was over in the other search.
Yeah, she was full frontal on the odor pool onto the fuel barrels.
Okay.
And this was the one time, or one of the few times that I looked at her and said, okay, I want you to go full frontal on the hide.
Yeah.
Because the dog needed the help.
And it proved a point. It proved a huge point.
It proved a huge point because as soon as she moved her feet and went full frontal on the hide, without any other word from her, the dog moved to where the hide was and solved the hide.
It's so amazing to show. It's a demonstration on actually the reason why we don't do it, because if we truly want to build independent problem solvers, and we've got to set up hides in such a way that and support the dog and handling so they don't get into trouble and handle them out of trouble if they need it. But the independence, it still has to be there. And if we are unconsciously standing full frontal and squaring up at a hide, or that's going to give our dogs way more information than we think it does.
Right. And then when you start doing blind hides,
right,
you run into a huge problem because you don't know where the hide is at.
Right.
And you can pin them into an odor pool or pin them into some place. And unless you know when that feeling of moving or taking a step or whatever, and that's what we're doing in this class for people who don't really understand or are like, well, what do you mean by intentional handling? Bless these people's hearts. They show up and we're in the process of step right, step left, step back in the moment.
Yeah.
And when you are working with certified handlers who have fines or other summit level competitors, and you're messing with their handling style.
They were trusting.
It was literally like a whole exercise in trust. And I will tell you, by about Wednesday night, I'm like, oh my God, I need a drink. because it's just
exhausting.
Yeah. And the amount of faith that these people were putting in us to be able to tweak some stuff was really just sort of mind-blowing for me.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about what we consider to be intentional handling? I mean, we've kind of talked around it a little bit.
Sure.
I think what we're talking about, and we can kind of maybe build on this because I don't have that beautiful graphic.
I'm going to go look for it.
Okay.
What we
we'll
will do
that.
is we'll actually use the graphic as the episode cover. So you guys will be able to see it.
Awesome. Yeah. Because it really comes down to, it's about teamwork, and what's really finding that sweet spot where we're not abdicating responsibility and following our dog around, and we're not giving our dog, taking over to the point where our dog doesn't have any autonomy. It's about purposeful handling in a way that supports the independence and autonomy of the dog, but in a way that's also making the search effective and efficient.
It's also one of those things that when we start thinking about intentional handling and we talk about doing things in particular ways, the thing that was really interesting for people was the whole concept of, well, it depends.
Right.
There are times that I will step in and I will go full frontal on a hide and I will do certain particular things because I'm teaching the dog a certain thing. And I know we've talked about this in a couple of different episodes, but it's the whole concept of when you're starting to put together the whole chain, and literally it's okay to ask for less in certain aspects and when you're teaching a particular lesson. And that's how I look at intentional handling is, as long as I know that I'm handling specifically that way to teach this particular lesson, that I will go full frontal on this hide to help the dog learn scent theory, I'm good with it, but that's not typically how I handle.
Right. And for me, it's also how I swing the pendulum in terms of how I handle is going to depend on the situation I'm in and the dog at the end of my line.
Right.
And it's very intentional. Well, I didn't want to use the word.
It's very,
it's like using what is that? When you do a definition, you don't use the word in the definition. Like, I didn't mean to do that. It's purposeful. That's why we use the word intentional, because it really is. Like, they're conscious decisions that in some cases I may direct more if I need to. In some cases, I may let the dog kind of take a little bit more of the rein. Like, it really is going to depend on the situation. It's also depend on the dog, depends on the dog's arousal level, all of those things, and how you might work on leash versus off leash. But the tenets are all the same.
Right.
And it's just like an expression. The expression just changes a little bit depending on, the strength of your odor, the size of your search area, like what are the situations that you're working under. And the cool part is that it's not specific to nose work. It's not specific to HR. It's not specific to area search. It's not specific to narcotics and explosives, right? It's not specific to any of that. It's just the different permutations depending on the situation.
And I love the fact that the students were because we had search areas that they could walk into and are you working on leash or off leash? And they're like, well, you told us we had to do whichever one was the most uncomfortable.
Yeah, you're right. I know.
I'm sorry, you're right. I did.
Yeah. So they're like, I guess I'm going off leash or vice versa.
Right. And it was sort of fun because some handlers learned a lot.
Yeah.
In the planning of this too, I really thought about with the intention that when you're moving with purpose, like you said, your dog is going to search with confidence. And that's why I brought in the C's to it as well, because it's not just the intention of how you handle your dog in the moment, the skills, but also your intention mentally. Like, where are you shaping your mind? How are you approaching the situation? You're not just following your dog. You're guiding the search and you're using clarity and consistency and all those great things. And it's just not wandering around. That's the difference. I always go to what it's not. And so I think the opposite of intentional is just wandering around. And we're not showing that at all. We're saying that it's not about controlling the dog either. So I think that's also important to say. It's about controlling the moments that shape the search. And I think that's what was so powerful in helping the teams out.
Yeah. It was interesting because we did a lot of timed searches.
Yes.
Right. And because one, it helps the handlers be very strategic on how they search their areas.
Yeah. It was interesting. The one search where I took the entire toy box, the whole toy box was in play, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I told them I wasn't timing them for that one. And all of a sudden, the searches went long.
Right.
Really long. And it was really interesting to see. It's like as soon as you take the pressure off.
Well, it's very interesting because when we started planning this, and we were having the conversation with the students that for our cadaver students, we are not putting out small source.
Right.
Right. Because it's not about doing really small source at this. If we put out small source, we'll tell you.
Yeah.
But we're also dealing with nosework students who a Q-tip is a really large source.
Right.
And so we had to make corresponding source sizes because of some of the other requirements that we wanted with the problems, AKA odor pools.
Right.
So once and it was really interesting for me to really help people gain the understanding of their role versus their dog's role.
Yep.
That their role is to keep track of where you have and haven't been, to understand airflow, to move through the area. Your dog's responsibility is to tell you that odor is there.
Right.
And the body language portion of it for reading the dog is so incredibly important because when you're trying to quickly get through an area, how do you handle your dog just stopping and sniffing something novel? Are you working at blind or are you working at known? If they're sniffing something novel while you're working a known problem, you can tell them to move on.
You can tell them to move on if it's blind too. And you can tell if you can read that it's
novel.
Yes. I do this all the time. Like if I'm working my dog blind and I can tell almost instantaneously, that's not target odor. And I just tell them to move on because I don't want to build that into my behavior chain.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was something I was also thankful for after we would have our training, or after we do our teaching, then at the end of the day, we would do our training because it was so hot. We put our dogs to the end. And I loved that I got the opportunity. We talk about if something happens once, it's a once off, no big deal. And Radish sat, which is her trained funnel response, at essential oil. And I think some of the students are watching, were like, oh, and I'm like, it's okay. It's a one-off thing. But now I get the opportunity to make it, if I do see it's a problem through the week, I can work on that. And so I appreciated that we had those opportunities like that so that when she did the next time start to show some interest in the essential oil, all I had to say was, not that, let's move on. No big deal. There was no like, oh my gosh, there's a huge consequence. It was just a good time to give information. And I think it was really great for students to get to watch us work through some of those things too. It was surprising how much the students kind of came back and said, can we do more of that? So it was great that we had such a long day of learning and they all stayed around and wanted to keep watching and training and doing more. So that was a nice experience.
And Stacy and I are like, we have to go set hides.
Yeah, they were long days.
Yeah, we were super lucky that the Singing Mesa horseboarding and campground.
That was so super. Yeah, because we had an offsite opportunity that was only around the corner.
Right. Yeah, around the corner in nowhere, Iowa. So it's like 3 miles away around the corner.
Well, no, anyway. It literally is around the corner.
It is.
Right? You have 800 acres. It's around the corner.
Yeah.
Well, it's even attached to the property. Like it's
connected. On the back fence, but anyway.
But it is around the corner because you go to the road
and you turn left
and you turn and then you go to the only intersection, which is the corner. technically.
Take another lap.
And you turn left and you go a mile down the road or something, and it's there. So, and then if you go a little farther, you got to watch out for the Iowa State Patrol, because that's where I got my speeding ticket, by the way. So, yeah, my first one ever in my life.
Oh, in Iowa.
I got my first speeding ticket ever.
Oh, no.
So anyway, Singing Mesa, it was really awesome. They're, squirrel. Really, really awesome. And be able to have like extra indoor opportunities and being able, and that's actually where a lot of our students, like if they camp, they get to camp there because they have hookups and everything.
Yeah.
For campers.
And Jana's lovely to work with. Yeah. And everybody got to say hi to my horse. So there you go.
Right. Because Dolce's there.
Yes.
Dolce's there.
But they allowed us to work in their indoor horse stalls and their indoor arena.
Yeah.
Which is amazing, and created some unique opportunities for me to limit handler movement.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Because I created challenges for them on what they could and couldn't do. And what was really fascinating for me is finding out one of the students had a dog that, as long as he could go counterclockwise, the dog was fine. And as soon as he turned to go the other direction, the dog was like, I can't search this way. And it was an Australian Shepherd, and he'll know who I'm talking about. So I'm not going to name him, but it was like, the herding dog is like, you broke the rules.
Oh, you're breaking rules.
Right.
We're breaking.
The ability for us to do some kind of unique, interesting things in that location was fabulous.
Yeah. And a lot of the airflow was really cool. And for nose work, we actually trial at fairgrounds a fair amount of time. I've lost track of the number of fairgrounds I've trialed at. So being able to get in and train in like a barn type environment, especially one that's being used, is really a great opportunity. And that barn in particular, like when Robin and I went over, because we set all the hides together. This wasn't just, Robin going off in one direction, me going off in the other. We put so much thought into the challenges and all the hide setting. We literally go together to figure out like, where is everything going to be placed? How are the nosework odors going to be placed in relation to the HR?
How are they going to overlap?
Yeah. How are they going to overlap? And we were aging everything at like 24 hours at least. So what is this odor going to do tomorrow? And we had all these conversations, and it was super, like, I didn't get to see the Singing Mesa one because I had the group that stayed on site. But the first thing I did was ask Robin, how did the wash stall go?
How did the wash stall?
Things like that.
And it's always a learning opportunity. And we're so blessed because the students, you have dogs at all different varying skill levels.
Yeah.
Right. And seeing how, and then you also have new handler or old handlers, experienced handlers.
Yeah.
Experienced handlers with new dogs.
Right.
Or in all sorts of combinations, and knowing what each student is trying to work on with their dog is just really, really fascinating. And those dogs, I mean, we had everything from the working German Shepherds and all those sorts of things to all the way over to really highly titled summit dogs to younger up and coming working line Labrador who'd just been exposed to odor, all over the place, and watching every single one of those dogs. And I was doing the math. When you're coaching 34 teams.
That's over the 2 weeks?
No. If you think about it this way, Stacy, I'll make your brain hurt.
Yeah, it's already hurting.
Okay. So we had 17 handlers.
Yes.
At intentional handling and hide setting.
Right.
So you coached We all coached because Crystal was doing
Oh,
stuff.
you mean like because of the number of searches?
Because of the number of searches, we're coaching 34 teams, quote unquote teams, searches.
Yeah.
In like a 4-hour period.
Yeah, because the students all did like at least 4 searches a day, some more.
Yes.
And we had 17 teams. But if you think about it, those 17 teams, like we broke them out. So the groups were a lot smaller.
Right.
And that was the really nice part about having multiple instructors and everything. We kept people really busy.
And dogs were tired.
They were tired.
And humans were tired.
And instructors were tired.
Instructors. And Crystal got the air conditioning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sad about that.
Yeah, I bet.
At the other side of it, though, too, for what we were doing some of the play and engagement stuff, they couldn't have done some of that in the heat, and they needed that place to cool off.
They did.
It was a good decompression.
Yeah, they needed that. So I was so thankful for your building.
Yeah.
You're talking about different breeds. What was Ross? I can't ever remember.
Oh, he's a Lagotto.
Lagotto? Okay, I couldn't remember how to say it.
Yeah, he's a Lagotto. I can't pronounce a lot. There's a second word to that.
That's the one. It's like an R or something.
Yeah, and it sounds like pasta to me.
I know. I always think ricotta Lagotto is what I always think.
Yeah, I know. Every time,
wrong.
Romanesco. It's not Romanesco.
Okay, it's a Legato Romaglano.
Sorry, Kathy. We're apologizing now.
Yeah, we apologize deeply. But it does sound like pasta to me. Every time I'm always like Lagotto Bolognese or something. And
I'm putting it in the chat so somebody else
I love Little Ross and Rain, though. They were so much fun.
There you go.
Oh, Romagnolo. Lagotto Romagnolo.
Ah.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it sounds like pasta. But
yeah,
I'd like a Lagotto Romagnolo with
Bolognese sauce.
And the Bolognese and the... Yeah.
Anyway, but they're lovely.
Yes. They're wonderful dogs.
And what was Lemon?
English Cocker.
Okay. And what was V?
V. No, she's a case hunt. V is a case hunt.
Oh, okay. That was the fluffy girl.
Yeah. I called her Fluffy Butt all weekend or all week. Yeah. It was just so fun to see and then we had an Aussie and the typical German Shepherds and labs. Lots of labs, a Border Collie, a Turv.
Yep.
And so all over the planet. And it was so fun.
Yes.
And my whole point of all of those 34 teams and all the different breeds, but the amount of scent theory education I got by setting out those hides and then being able to watch every single dog run the exact same problem was phenomenal for me.
One of the things I love seeing, building on what you just said, was, and I think the students love this too, where you're seeing with that aging, where those odor pools are actually developing.
Yes.
Like for me, that's where my brain goes, right? And to see, like, for instance, I remember we had large source in the baler, and to see that against the wall, like past where the windrower was, like up against that wall.
Yes.
Like, so it's a really far distance, like probably like 40 feet, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe more. And pooled up in the shelving over there. And like to the point where like the HR dogs were like, there's lots of odor over here. And the only place it could have been coming from in that search was from the baler, and like just like in the middle of the
building.
And it was fascinating. So fascinating to see that. And I think it blew some people's minds because a lot of people don't work really aged odor in training. And to see how far that odor collects and how strongly it collects over time, I think was hugely educational.
Yes. And the whole concept of the disconnected odor pools that started happening.
Yep.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. And you get that a lot in that building anyway.
Yeah.
Just the way it's constructed and considering where everything is located. we started to see some of that. And so if people are saying, what is a disconnected odor pool? That's where your odor pool is developed. And however, there's no tendril, there's no real tendril really that the dogs can really detect that would connect that odor pool to the source of odor. That can happen either because the airflow shifts, like the odor pool develops and then airflow shifts, or you may end up with, in this case, this wasn't really the cause of it, where you have like a lot of thermals or something that may cause a lot of lofting, and then it creates an odor pool far away from source. That's not going to be the issue in Joe's toy box, but we did start to see some of those disconnected odor pools occur, and it's really cool to see that.
And then Mother Nature threw us yet another loop and gave us the rain and cloudy days.
Yeah, we had a cool day right in the middle of it.
We did. And that cloudy day was when it was so interesting because some of the students are very familiar with Quonset. And if people don't know what the Quonset is, it's this big oval metal or half circle metal building, which creates really
like a half pipe turned upside down.
Yeah, it's really cool. And typically there's particular odor movement through there because of the heat of the sun on the building. Well, it was cloudy. And so where students were thinking that they set hides because it was going to work a certain way, it didn't. That was really, really interesting. And then we got to talk to them about the whole concept of when is close enough.
Yeah.
So behind because they had set something way behind a grate.
That was a cool hide though.
Mm-hmm.
Cool hide.
Some really interesting hides. And then it's always interesting letting the students set hides and we're like, do you realize what that's going to do?
We had a couple times we came in and they showed us the hides and we're like, ooh, that's going to be hard. And they looked at us like, really? And we're like, yeah. And then it was.
So the cattle barn hide was that way, that the one that they set up right on the building.
Yeah. I'm like, oh man. Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
Probably the hardest one was when they left the lid on.
You know what? I talked to him and he said he cracked it.
Oh, that's still hard.
It's still hard. Yeah. Because it was a cadaver hide that was in a tad and he had just cracked it because he wanted a light odor. And it was on the east side of a barn. It had hay below it. It was a north-south venting opportunity. I mean, there were like all of these, a peaked roof and all of these things that ended up happening that just even Nico said that one was hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So goodness, they all did. And it provided a great learning opportunity on, okay, yes, we typically want our dogs getting close to source, but when is close enough in training that you don't have to step in and present and get overly involved, which I think made some heads hurt, which is great.
What was one of your favorite lessons learned or your favorite hides that you set or saw?
Mine was, I don't know if I want to say this because it gives away a good,
yeah,
I'll use it. It is at Singing Mesa in the arena, indoor arena. We could do buried problems. And we did a buried problem for the cadaver dogs. And we did a slightly below the surface hide for the nosework dogs. And what ended up happening with a couple of them, because nosework, you don't do a lot of hides buried in the dirt.
Not if you do AKC, they have like buried in containers, but otherwise, no. We have surface level ground hides usually.
Right. And this was actually buried and covered by sand.
Yeah.
If the dogs got in one particular location, they could source it in. A lot of the dogs fixated on a cone. One dog thought the lights in it was so funny because they were standing in there and they were looking up, and pretty sure they singled out the light in the ceiling. And we kept talking about how that the dog thought God was talking to them. But, they're throwing their trained final response because they're like, this is as close as we could get. And so then it was, how do you step in and have the conversation of teaching them know that odor can be in the dirt? And I think that was one of my many favorite hides.
I would say one of my favorites is actually the hayfield.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason is that it gave, other than the fact that it gave the dogs a chance to just kind of blow out a little bit. And we encouraged folks, if they felt safe enough to work that off leash. The really cool part is that handlers were able to see like at what point their dogs got into odor, and it was very far away from the source. For the nosework dogs, I would say it was challenging because of the context. And it was basically a field, like a small field, like maybe, was it
maybe an
2
acre
acres.
and a half.
Acre and a half, 2 acres.
Yeah.
Full of round hay bale.
Yeah.
It's hay bale storage, right? With long grass. And it was a known hide. Nobody did it blind. And for a lot of nosework dogs, they go in here and they're like, well, this is just a field. Because it's not a search area that nosework dogs see very often as a search area. So some of the dogs had to work through some contextual issues to try to like, oh, wow, you can hide stuff out here too. And once the dogs got an odor, we were able to really see how that odor was wrapping around the hay bales. And it was super cool. And also for the HR dogs, it wasn't up against a bale. It wasn't up against a rock. It wasn't up against a stump. It wasn't up against a tree. It was actually in the middle of the field, just kind of covered by some random loose hay, right?
Right.
So same thing. The dogs had to locate it using their nose, not triangulating off of objects. So it was a really great skill. And as a result, we got to see so much odor behavior that was just so much fun to watch.
Well, and I will totally give Crystal credit for the cadaver hide because I replicated a hide she had set, I think during distraction camp for training, after or before distraction camp. And it was a hide that it took Nico and Kyber like 7 minutes each to solve it because they got stuck on hay bales. Because when we plant things, we tend to plant things next to things so that we remember that they're there.
Right.
Out in the middle of the field is a little harder. Now you're trying to triangulate between weeds. And we have a lot of the same weeds and large tufts of grass, so you can lose stuff. And so Crystal had set one out there and Rad solved it in like 30 seconds because she runs a little slower. She doesn't go Mach 7 like the Malinois boys. And I was just like, it was a good hide. It was a good lesson for me. It was a good lesson for my dog. So I stuck it underneath there. And watching that much odor behavior that just happens. And like Stacy, like you said, we were leaving things sit for 16 to 18 hours. And then one set of our hides was actually out for almost 36 hours.
Yeah, the chicken barn.
The chicken barn was out. Yeah. And then we had the flooded chicken barn smell to go over the top of everything else. That was great.
Oh, yeah.
That was fun.
Because just so everybody knows, we got 10 and a half inches in the month of July.
Is that it?
Is that it?
It felt like more. I'm just going to put that out there.
That was the most that we've gotten in a really, really long time. But our ponds are full, so we're excited.
It is actually, the ponds are very full and the dogs are really loving it right now.
Yeah. Okay, ladies, takeaways.
When I think about intentional, I think we need to think about it in our handling skills and also how we think about things. And so I think the additional C's were helpful for that. And if that's not helpful for people, I want you to think about the lens with which you look through when you train. So are you looking at this as a growth moment? Are you looking at this as a testing moment? So really be thoughtful about even where your brain is. So it's not just the dog, but also how we think about things.
And I'm just going to reflect on one of our main themes that we really kind of work through in the seminar, which is odor pools. And we created those odor pools through aging. A lot of times when we think about the hide setting, so I'm going to talk more on the hide setting side, everybody always thinks about the where are you placing the hide. And I think very often we don't think about how long are you placing the hide and what is that odor going to, how is it going to present in a night after an extended period of time? And what kind of challenges does that give the dog and education does that give the dog by aging hides even longer than we're going to see from a nosework side in competition? And clearly for the HR handlers, deployment, that stuff's aged. So
Yes.
it's not being placed out, 4 hours before you get there, right? So the value in aging your hide setups is just so incredibly important.
Yes. And my takeaway is actually more about gratitude, that we have a community of handlers who showed up and trusted us to lead them on a journey. And they hit the I believe button a couple of times, I think. And hopefully we ended them up in a better spot. And so we often talk about how the dog training community can be really brutal. But last week, or whenever, distraction camp and intentional handling and hide sitting are always one of my small joys on being able to see people really grow. And I am very appreciative of the trust and faith that they put in us. With that, everybody, thank you for participating in this little reminiscing and download about intentional handling and hide setting. We will be releasing dates for next year, probably in the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye out on the Facebook page for that. And with that, go train.
Canine Detection Collaborative! We appreciate the time you spend with us. If you liked this episode, not only should you follow us so you don't miss the next one, but please also rate and review us in your favorite podcast app. For info on collaborating with us, go to k9detectioncollaborative.com. That's K9 detectioncollaborative.com, where you can find our socials and pick up our latest monthly freebie. Join us again to talk training in the next episode.